nutrition partner in Tanzania, which is the Partnership for Nutrition in Tanzania, PANITA, presents on nutrition and why it's important.
Good afternoon, colleague. I feel honored to be part of you this afternoon. And allow me to share some of the few facts that we have so far in terms of how nutrition relates directly to our development agenda in terms of socioeconomic determinants. And I chose referring women. It's for everybody. It's just my understanding this was around women conference. So, but ideally these are general facts that cater to everyone. But there is a space where you'll see why also women matters to this. My colleague was talking around food systems, and she went as far as to give us some facts around how we get some effects given how we harvest our products and keep them, and this is aflatoxin. And I saw something around stunting, so I'll just take there. But before going to those perspectives, I had put a question, and this is around food and nutrition. And simply, I usually ask people, what do we eat? If you take a stock since morning until when you sleep, what varieties of food have you taken in a day? In terms of starch, protein, vegetables, nutrients. Can someone figure out about this? And particularly in this part of the world, in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Can you speak loud if you don't mind? Can anybody volunteer? Just give a quick perspective. What takes much of our food that we eat? Carbohydrates, eh? Yeah, somebody did this. I'm not sure if you get. You see the yellow part? That is the starch part, which is the carbohydrates. And we might be doing this without our knowledge, but practically this is what we do. And this tells us a lot. Because we're talking of diversity as well as balanced diet. This may not reflect what really is supposed to be. So I just want to alert people. We might be practicing a bit poor eating habits in terms of diversity without our knowledge. It's just because what we have on the table, and that's what we find in the market. So unless you do a deliberate effort to try and look on what you take in terms of ratios, otherwise you'll end up doing this without understanding yourself. And this has a far greater negative consequences to our body. So, alluding to these factors, I want to bring in some facts around global statistics on the food you eat. It's now estimated that around 852 million people in the world do not eat enough to be healthy, not to fill our stomachs. It's the other side that I was talking from the initial slide, the diverse and the balanced diet. These are facts that were given out by WFP, and in simple language, it's about 1 in 8 people are doing this. So, having said that, our feeding habits bring us to two dimensions in terms of nutrition. It can be, we call what we call double burden of malnutrition. It can be under or over. So, well, given where I am today, and I'm sure most of us are coming from Africa, our biggest part is the lower levels of nutrition that we show under nutrition. And there are three indicators that we look at it. We have stunting. This is where we correlate height and age. But this, let me be clear here, because I had a question from one of my politicians and say, so if I'm short, then is it necessary that I was stunted? How about genetics? So we do this between day 1 and age of 5. Beyond that, you can't use this measure because the differentiation and other things start to take place, so the growth becomes not uniform. But between day 1 and the 5th birthday, the growth rate of these kids is just uniform. So that's why you can use this, and this is an emerging from the Gaussian curve, where we think around 95% of people within population will exhibit this. So that's where this stands. So we don't need about that today. This is only important when you have children below 5 years of age. And then you have wasting, where people become so thin, and this is purely around acute malnutrition and what to eat in terms of amount, and also underweight. So these are three things, but going forward I want to focus more on stunting. And this is where the problem starts. So as I've said, in diametric term, this is what we call, if you take today children of 4 years of age or 3 years of age, you would expect them to be of the same age, but you can have these kind of scenarios. So, who are the vulnerable now? Essentially, the most vulnerable group is of the children is from when they are born to the second birthday. Although we are now going further to say from the day of conception, things start from there. So, and there are two facts. When the child is born, their level of cell division within the body that reflects into growth is quite rapid, and that means they need a lot of nutrients and energy to make sure this is happening. And some of the body tissues, once they differentiate, they will never go back. And that's part of it is our nervous system. These are specialized cells, and once they mature and acquire a certain level of growth, they will never be able to divide in the same rate, and this is function of time. So in most cases, particularly the brain, that happens in the first 2 years of life. So after 2 years of life, by 70%, your brain is already differentiated to a more functional status, and that reversing whatever damage that you had might be difficult. So that's why this age group becomes so critical in terms of having adequate nutrition for the optimal growth of the brain matter. So this is what I was trying to explain, and this is just a diagram that explains some of, I'm not sure it is seen well, but it shows some of the specific functions that will have already been formed in terms of segregating the brain chunks. One is around sensory pathway, vision and hearing. That happens within the first years of life. After that time, if this didn't develop very well, then you are done. The second one that goes a bit further is the language. In terms of speech, also goes to the second year of life, and by third year, the higher cognitive function, that is all things to do with motion and sensory in terms of space and gravity, they are done. So, if the child did not get sufficient nutrition to support these processes, she all goes to a state that we call stunting, that the brain matter did not develop to its full potential within that required time to allow this differential perspective to take place as normally. And in a simple language, it diminished the cognitive function of that child by between 30 to 40%. And the cognitive function is the driver of everything almost that we do. If it's learning, that's what it will be reduced. If it's the physical stature of this person, will be reduced. If it's about comprehension and thinking and being more analytical, that will be reduced. So it kills almost every major domain that is important for your life in the future. So the first 2, so from the time of conception, we are saying we call them 1,000 days, to your second birthday of your child, that is very critical. Make sure that this child gets sufficient nutrition to make sure that they develop properly. And that's, height is just a simple, quick measure, but really what matters is the development of the brain, to make sure that it acquires its maximum potential in terms of doing what it's supposed to be doing. So, having said this, let me speak some few things around malnutrition, how they measure, and this is more, we see some numbers here, but overall we have 2 billion people globally now. This is from the Global Nutrition Reports that was released last year, that are malnourished in one way or another, And out of those, we have 50 million wasted, 794 million calorie deficient, that they don't take sufficient energy. 159 million under 5 children are stunted. And let me say this, maybe 2/3 of these children lives in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, not in the north. So this is very important for us today, to know that. So if you have this big chunk of people who are already stunted, they are going to be your president, they are going to be your ministers, they are going to be the father of, maybe the husbands of your daughter, they are going to be whatever it is. They are going to be your village leaders, they are going to be your scientists, they are going to be your doctors. They are coming from this domain with around 30 to 40% diminished ability to do the best because of the poor brain development. And this reflects even to economic productivity. This is very dangerous. Take it from me. Now this shows just in pictorial terms what I was saying, for people to understand in simple language. So, I don't want to go into details of this. So, why do we have malnutrition in our society? This is a simple pictorial framework that explains why we have malnutrition in this part of the world. So the first one is around food. As I've said, do we really get sufficient food in right quantities in terms of calories, in terms of protein, in terms of fats, in terms of nutrients? That's where the second part is the care of the child. And this is mothers and children and support for parents in appropriate child feeding practices. I think this week we are commemorating what we call World Breastfeeding Week. I think it ended, yesterday. And this comes from this perspective. We are seeing a lot of things happening. In the north, we see a lot of bottle feeding from infant formulas. They're not the best. In the south, that's even different. Let me give you this example. Think of a mother in the village where he has a couple of children and the younger children, maybe 1 year or so. This mother wakes up in the morning around 5, go and fetch water maybe 2 kilometers, coming back to the house, put the water down, take the hoe to the farm with the child on her back, and stay the entire day in the farm maybe up 5 p.m. And when she gets out of the farm, goes through somewhere collecting firewood, coming back home late. Maybe that is 6 or 7. Starting cooking for the family. Under no circumstances, we are saying when the child is born, within 1 hour, this child should start sucking the milk. And from that day to the 6 months of time, she should be, or he or she should be fed with only breast milk. I'm just putting facts down. And from that time is when now you can start complementing now the breast milk with right diets to the age of 2 years or plus. And the best milk is the mother's milk. But this mother has to be in right diet also, given time sufficient to feed the children. She needs time to rest, and she really requires family support. Now, if I look in this room, apart maybe from few people that I see, they'll be coming from north. All of us are coming from this part of the world. Do we really give sufficient support to the breastfeeding mothers in terms of right food, time to rest, time to feed the child? And usually the child should suck the milk until he stops. And that may take up to 5 minutes. Now think of the example of the mother I've told you, who started 5 a.m., fetch some water, coming back, go to the shamba with the kid in the farm, dig with the hand hoe for a couple of hours, and then going back through with firewood and so forth. I'm not sure if that will happen. In other scenarios, and this is a study that has been done in Tanzania, in the southern part of this country, where there is a lot of food, still it's one of the regions with the highest stunting rates. And we have seen a lot of practices that goes beyond. One is, apart from that one, because mother is overwhelmed with work, they even give local brew to these young children so that they can sleep. And the mother has time to go to our website. It is that paper, it's done by Concern, not even by us. So it's a published pepper in the jungles, and you see those. That's one of the examples. And even back home, when the mother prepares, the best food goes for the men and babas and so forth. And so the children eat later, and the girl child and the mothers eat even later. So you see these kind of things this is what I'm talking about care. It's just a few of the examples that we know. And the third perspective is around healthcare. Not only accessing the health facilities, but it's from the environment. Now we know an hygienic environment is one of the drivers of stunting to a larger extent. And this comes from the Enterobacter and so forth. Not the acute diarrhea. It's that the constant chronic small diarrhea that brings problems. Because if it persists for so long, you get to mucosal slewing, and this child, even if you feed him or her properly, the rate of absorption of nutrients may not be sufficient as it would have been supposed to be. So, all below this we see political and cultural environment, poverty comes in, disempowerment of women is key here, and environmental degradation comes in as major drivers now explaining the bigger part of what I was trying to say. The political dimension of the country at a particular time is very important to these things. I'll give you an example. I was in America. If somebody comes from America, will dispute me or not, but the statistics are around 40 million people in USA, they are facing hunger. They can't get sufficient meals, and there are people advocating for this. But all of us, we know this is one of the big rich nations. Why we have those kind of things? People are just arguing on how best to do it. Some are saying people should work and have their money to feed themselves. Some are saying, can the government do something to support? So those kind of environmental ideology and thinking may hamper some of the non-proven policies that would be positive in terms of this. And this happens in our countries. So I think economical perspective in terms of how much the country has to support some of these public infrastructure and interventions also matters too. So social, political and cultural as well as economical dimension of the country, the communities as well as the families matters a lot. Who owns what in the family? Women are the most producer in the families, but once we get to the produce, who go and sell them to the market? Let me tell you, it's not the fathers. And once they sell, not necessarily they buy what is important for the kids. They may start taking local brew or something, they may go somewhere else and do other. So there are a lot of things that surround this. All these fuel stunting that diminish by 30 to 40% of child brain cognitive function, that determines his or her entire life in terms of potential to achieve the best in life. So this is how stunting or malnutrition really affects our global economy. Every year global GDP losses from malnutrition are greater than what we lost each year during the 2010 financial crisis. You know there was a huge downturn in terms of financial issues, but that is small. If you compound the total loss as a result of stunting globally, is bigger than that. But we know how countries made noise because of the economic meltdown that happened because of the subprime mortgages and other poor lending practices. But that is small. So we are trying to show people how much malnutrition affects our economic potentials in life. So this was more global. Let me bring you to Africa. You see the rates? Those are the bigger the rate, the more undernourished charts you see. So look where you're coming from. You can get yourself. My country is here. It's not the best. Our standing rate is around 34% now, which is still good. But that's not the worst. We are not even in the best 20 with the bigger standing rate. So this is Victoria. So see yourself where you're coming from, and the bigger the dot, the bad the situation in terms of stunting. This is how number of African countries at various stages of progress against global targets. If you see green, that's great. But if you see red, there are some of the targets that we have agreed ourselves as global community by 2025 to make sure that we improve our nutrition status. So if you see the bigger the red, the bad you are in terms of those. So most of our African countries still, they're in red dots, and that tells us we are not making progress toward this in the right direction. So some of the African countries on how the nutrition below 2 years of age, in the first 1,000 days of life, that is from conception to the second birthday. So what really happens, the size of the brain is reduced. So if you see two diagram, the other one, that is how if you take that as a mark of good nutrition on the left side, this is a mark of poor nutrition. In terms of brain size, is also reduced. And IQ is a function of brain size. That is known, it's a fact. So the bigger the brain size, the higher the number of cells, because the bigger the brain size is also explained by the higher number of the brain cells, because of the good multiplication process that happened between the day of conception to the second birthday. Now, in simple terms, if you have small brain size than normal, for sure your cognitive ability is also reduced equally, and your IQ goes down equally. Just to bring you to the fact, some of the parameters that contribute to lowering intelligent quotient, which is one of the parameters of brain ability to comprehend facts. So and this is a proven study. It was done way back in 1999 by Grant and McGregor. So the blue one is the low birth weight. In Africa, we have still children born with low birth weight. Usually, we are talking around 2.5 kilograms as an average, the minimum average, but still we have children that are born less to 2.5 kilograms, and that's the group. So if you do the IQ contribution of various parameters, you do it at a ratio of 5. Stunting does at a ratio of 11, and iodine deficiency does at a ratio of 15. So these are some of the issues. And low birth weight and iodine compound stunting as one of the factors. You know, stunting has a lot of dimensions beyond what we might think. And these are some of the economic consequences. If you have impaired cognitive development, we say poorer performance in cognitive testing and behavioral differences in healthy childhood, including apathy, reduced activity, play, and exploration. So this child will start being dull early days of what we say her life. And then when it comes to schooling, you will see this child obviously will have poor school performances. We are saying it's 1 year loss of schooling. A simple language is this. If your child is stunted and on average is supposed to be standard 5, his brain ability to comprehend issues will be at standard 4. So all the time, we'll never be able to catch up with others. Impaired productivity, now it is estimated that over a lifetime, there will be 22% of productivity loss in lifetime of this child. So compared to average person, this person who is stunted will have about 22% less in terms of gaining and productivity. Economic development, this is combined African countries, the GDP. We are seeing 11% loss as a result of stunting across, if you do the econometric modeling, which now people are doing it. And in Tanzania, it's about 2.65%. Increased healthcare cost due to obesity, you see the numbers, it's just obesity. But even the stunted child has low immunity, so higher frequency of diseases and sickness. Now there are two issues here. One is the burden to the healthcare system, but second is the burden to the people who takes care of this child. Whether it's the mother, step, whatever is around, you need to take care of the sick, so they won't produce. So it's a compounded effect. And most of the time, the one who are charged to do this will be mothers. And that's why I say, if you do further length, women have a lot to do with this. So, in other words, these are estimated GDP loss across some of the African countries, and this was extracted from cost of hunger study. I think you can see the numbers and how we are losing. And when we talk of development, if we are in this path, it will take time more than what we think. Just to show you how poverty mimic malnutrition. This is our map in Tanzania, and in the left side you see the poverty map. The darker the color in terms of reddish is the heavier the poverty. And if you now look, you see this side. in this part. So what we see from this is the areas with the higher poverty, also the stunting rates are higher. So there is quite almost direct relationship between poverty and stunting. I just want them to appreciate this before I go further. And the bad thing now is, if a mother who was stunted, and if a woman who is stunted is married to a man who is stunted, the higher chances that their children will be stunted. That's how the science tells us, and this is the cycle. So it's intergenerational in terms of, it's not inheritance, but the factors really, if you think of a mother and a father who were stunted, probably they will be in a rural area, their productivity is less by 22%, probably they didn't do better in schools, they're back home depending on cultivation with the handle, and they have a kid, poverty will be there, possibly this kid may be also stunted, there will be not sufficient to eat, not sufficient time to feed the kid, and that is now goes to be intergenerational. And as I've shown you, there is quite good relationship between being stunted and poor poverty. So the poverty also will continue to recycle across these communities. And that's the bad thing. Unless specific measures are done. So what are we doing at global level? We are trying to set targets, and that's what I've shown in the past, that the World Health Assembly has set some targets where countries should try and march toward to reduce this burden. But also in African context, our heads of state started in Maputo and later in Malabo. They did some commitment to make sure that they do deliberate interventions to reduce malnutrition in our country as well as combating them. So these are some of the awakening pathways. And unfortunately, if you compare our African countries, all those what you see, only 4 countries are on course to reach Malabo target. That is to put stunting less than 10%. By 2025 and zero hunger. Only 4 countries. And this is SDGs. I think now when you see the yellow, all those SDGs, for them to be met to a large extent, they depend on good nutrition. So even if we don't do much around nutrition, we may not, there are higher chances that we may not achieve our sustainable development goals. So why do we have this? There are a couple of issues in summary. We see sometimes lack of food or access to food. Those are 2 things. There are countries like Ethiopia, they are always in huge famine, so there is nothing to eat. But in our country like Tanzania, where we see the highest stunting rates is the area where there is plenty of food. So there is something beyond food. Is it lack of resources? Maybe it can explain to our countries, because already we are poverty stricken and we are going through that poverty cycle and stunting cycle. Lack of political will, maybe yes. There has to be real mathematical action to make sure these things are corrected. Because if you ask economists, they will tell you, if you have good economic growth, malnutrition will go off. But the studies are showing no, unless there is something beyond economic growth, and this is the political will, to push resources back to support some of these interventions. Custom and norms, yes. I've put a lot of explanations there before. Perception and assumption to nutritious food. So people should start being educated. What sometimes you think is nutritious food may not be. And unfortunately, the major problem around malnutrition happens in your first 1,000 days of life, and you may not know that your negative potential in the adulthood was connected to your poor feeding habits in your first 1,000 days of your life. So the positive side of investing in nutrition, all of us we should do. Now it is agreed from studies now that if we have good nutrition, the poor families are likely to escape poverty by 33%. Education will improve, as I've said. The economists have postulated this, that if you invest $1 in nutrition in this person and get good nutrition, it will yield $16 as return in a life path. But the most important thing is our society still experiences, particularly in this part of the world, huge gender inequalities at household level. And now, I don't want to go into this. This is a simple, how a girl child is discriminated from right she's born. People ask me, What is that sex of the boy? A boy, sex of the child. A boy, people claps. A girl, so in other words, the girl child might be systematically, given what it is, more systematically alienated from pathways to improving nutrition. So something has to be done, and it should start from women. Don't expect men will do this for you. I remember our first president in this country. He gave a speech in the early days, 1978, I think, saying it's hard to take power from people. And later went to talk about gender equality. So I think what we see now from Africa, Asia, and Latin America, gender inequalities and poor power relations within households, they are the major fuel of malnutrition, minus food in access, food in availability. So, if a cousin once said, to achieve sustainable development, we must address the persistent food and nutrition challenges undermining our most vulnerable communities. Thank you very much. What I wanted to say is, it's imperative that women should be at the forefront of trying to improve gender equality and power relations at household, focusing on eliminating poor nutrition in our families. Otherwise, we will never make the progress that we think will come. Thank you very much.